And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. The NASCAR Fantasy Podcast is here. We're going to recap everything Martinsville from yesterday's Cup Series race. We're going to talk the race stage by stage breakdown, my thoughts on it overall, look back at the fantasy team, and now the updated power rankings that I have set up following the Martinsville race, and we'll take a look at how that compared to the week before all over the next hour. Thanks for everybody tuning in here. Like, share, and subscribe for more daily NASCAR content as we get into this stream here today, the first of a couple on the channel. Of course, this happens every day or after race day. Black Lives Matter. Trevor Grimes, Jackson Thomas, welcome to the stream. Not the original, never mind. I was thinking it was Black Lives. Never mind. You guys get the point. I'm a fan of Blaney. Yes, I am too, and we'll get into that debacle there at the end of that race for sure. Again, everything is going to be put on full display here for today. So I guess first and foremost, we got to talk about the race. And we're going to go in chronological order like we usually do, starting with Stage 1, then Stage 2, then Stage 3. I'll look through my notes as I go through. And anybody in the chat, if you guys want to say anything, of course, I'll try to keep an eye on that as well. Maybe answer any questions as they go, or at least when they come up at that point in recapping the race. Justin Sozio as well, welcome to the stream. So welcome everybody here very early start time. Ethan, welcome as well. First off, I went with my pick to win the race yesterday. It was Ryan Blaney. I mean, he had back-to-back top two finishes. He finished second place in both races back in 2020, and he had 4 straight top 5s at Martinsville going in. And I thought of the drivers that had the statistical success at that racetrack in recent years, on top of how they performed this year, that he was the best option. So I went with Blaney, and boy, was I close, but we'll get to that again in a little bit. It all started way back on Saturday night. They got 43 laps into the race before the rain ended up striking. They did have a rain delay at the start as well. Couldn't even get it started until about 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so that was about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes later of a start time as it was, and then they only got so much in before the rain came. It's kind of a good thing, in my opinion, that the rain came, because I think the TV ratings were going to be better. I haven't looked at the ratings at all, but I think the TV ratings would have been better off if they ran Sunday afternoon versus Saturday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, honestly, because that race wouldn't have gotten over till well past midnight. And we saw at the Daytona 500 that was ran. Granted, that was a Sunday and not a Saturday night, but still, it started similar start time, and we saw the TV ratings for that. Very disappointing there. So, yes, it was a bummer to see it rained out and ran into the next day, especially me going to a baseball game yesterday. It was definitely tough to counteract with it, but I think it did help the TV ratings compared to what they probably would have been on Saturday night with all the rain coming in and having to move the start time back to when they did, that's for sure. But they only got 43 laps in before James Davidson actually got turned by his teammate, Cody Ware. And then during the caution, that's when the rain ended up coming out. I did not actually catch the race on my actual TV and on the couch until the end of Stage 2, start of Stage 3, somewhere around there. I think it was like very early into the final stage when I actually got home, but I was watching and listening to the race, so I'll try to cover the first 2 stages as best as I can. If I missed something, I'm sorry. I wasn't originally going to go to the game on Sunday. The only reason I went is because the race was supposed to be Saturday night, and I figured, yeah, why not? I'll go Saturday, and then sure enough, it ended up, raining, so hindsight's always 20/20 on that one for sure, but we planned on going for a week. I brought it up that, hey, I'm going to be going to a baseball game. So, yeah. Anyway, here we go. We got back into the racing. Kurt Busch actually brought out the first caution after the racing resumed on Sunday, maybe about 3 laps after they ended up going green. I didn't see the cause of how he spun. I didn't know if he had maybe a tire go down. It looked like he just lost control off turn 4, so I'm going to assume he had a tire go down. Again, correct me if I'm wrong on that one. And Ryan Blaney went on to win Stage 1. It was a pretty dominant long car that Ryan Blaney had. It seemed like Denny Hamlin had the fastest short run car, and Ryan Blaney had the fastest long run car, and it was going to come down to those two, and depending on what kind of run they were going to have at the end of the race was going to be the difference maker there. So with the first stage ending on a pretty much long green flag run that helped Ryan Blaney kind of pull ahead to a couple second advantage as he won stage number 1 and stage number 2. Again, it didn't really change between Hamlin having the fastest short run car and Blaney having the fastest long run car. We did go most of that stage stage caution-free until we got to about 19 laps to go in the stage, where we got our first caution for incident in stage 2. And that really kind of threw in a little bit of a different pit strategy. You saw some guys pit, and some guys end up staying out. Blaney was one of the guys that stayed out. They were committed to try and get that playoff point and win the second stage of the race. So that definitely played into a hand. You saw guys like Keselowski go onto pit road. I think Alex Bowman might have came down into the pits as well. Kurt Busch, who was involved in the earlier incident as well. And we ended up going green. And Blaney was holding his own, believe it or not, on Denny Hamlin. They're running side by side there for a good couple laps. And then we ended up getting another caution with 8 laps to go in the stage. Once that caution came out with about 8 laps to go in the stage, that set up for just a 2-lap green-white checker to decide the Stage 2 victory, where we saw a photo finish between Blaney and Hamlin, and Blaney was able to hold on. That was as impressive of a short run as Blaney had on both of those restarts to hang on to the lead and narrowly win Stage 2, so Blaney scored 2 stage points just simply by winning the first 2 stages of the race, and Hamlin finished second in both stages as well. The Stage 1 results from yesterday were Ryan Blaney, again, winning Stage 1, Denny Hamlin Denny Hamlin second in Stage 1, Truex third. That was the top 3 in both of the first 2 stages. Chase Elliott was 4th, Kyle Larson 5th, Byron 6th, Bowman 7th. The Hendrick cars looked fast as a whole. All 4 of them looked pretty equal. They didn't look like that they could necessarily contend for the win because of how strong the 12 and the 11 and even the 19 to Truex ended up coming on in the final stage of the race. But they were definitely fast. All 4 of them were in the top 10 all day until Bowman got caught up in what we're about to talk about here real soon. So pretty much the end of Stage 2, the way that ended really shaped up how the final stage was going to go. We had those 2 cautions very late in the stage. Then we had the green flag to that dropped to start the final stage, which was about 230 laps in length. And the final stage kind of lagged on quite a bit because there were a lot of cautions. I believe there were 7 cautions in the final stage alone, and we still had about 113 laps to go, I think it was, when they went green after the 7th caution in the final stage. So in about 120 laps, they had about 7 cautions in that stretch. They just could not get a green flag run going there. That really hurt Blaney. He was one of the drivers that tried to stay out to get the stage win. Yes, he got the stage win, but then he got put back in traffic because of having to pit when everybody else who pitted under the original caution at the end of Stage 2 stayed out during the stage break. So Blaney lost his track position. He was trying to work his way back forward, never really could until the final 100 laps or so of the race, simply because he had a long run car. We never had a long run for him to work his way back up. But yes, it was a great run for the Hendrick cars regardless, I guess is what I was getting on before that. But the guys to beat were definitely the 12 and the 11. All day long. Those many early cautions included a 15-car pileup early in Stage 3 when Chris Buescher and Kyle Busch ended up tangling together. It looked like Kyle Busch drove it deep into the corner, made a little bit of contact with Chris Buescher. Buescher looked to have maybe either got upset or just lost control trying to get back to the gas. It's up for debate on whether or not, what ended up happening. And I think both drivers were going to be able to save their race cars off the exit of the corner after making contact. The reason why they spun out, in my opinion, is because when Buescher came down into Busch, I think the wheels got locked together because it almost looked like both front tires and both rear tires kind of matched up equally. Usually when you see contact off the exit of the corner, like donuts on the side panel of a race car, is because the tires hit the side panel of the car, so they could usually keep control, but the tires kind of bumped and it definitely caused them to both go out of control. And when they stacked up down the back straightaway, the track was blocked. There was nowhere for anybody to go. All the lap cars that were at the back of the field got taken out in that one. There were some fast cars that got taken out in that wreck as well. We mentioned Kyle Busch, Chris Buescher being involved, but Ryan Preece had a lot of damage. Let me think here. Alex Bowman had a lot of damage. I think he was knocked out of the race after that point. Brad Keselowski was knocked out of the race after that point. So there were some strong cars like Keselowski, Bowman, Kyle Busch, who had been in the top 10 all day, that had some damage. And a couple of those guys definitely got knocked out of the race. Now, Kyle Busch stayed in the race and had a great rally at the very, very end. He was actually able to get back in the top 10 by the finish of it, but definitely took a shot of maybe a top 5 out of the way. Pretty much got back to about where he was running beforehand. It was very similar to what Ryan Blaney was able to do at the Bristol Dirt Race when he had got caught up in a big accident, a lot of damage. His was on the left rear. Kyle Busch was basically on both the right side and the left side, but both short tracks, so you're able to overcome the odds with a heavily damaged car a little bit better, perhaps. on further into stage 3. We go back to about 35 laps to go in the race, which is where we actually ended up having our last caution. It was looking like it was going to be a very, very good run to the finish between the 11 of Hamlin, Blaney, and Truex was all in the mix. The top 3 were all within about 6 to 7 tenths of a second of each other, and Blaney was knocking on the doorstep of the race lead with 35 to go when that final caution waved. It was on a longer green flag run because they went green with 70 laps to go, so that led to a 35-lap green flag run, which is about the point where Hamlin would take off to about a 2-second lead, and then Blaney would have the long-run car after 35 to 40 laps. He'd get there. They got to that 35-lap mark. He was there. He was looking for the lead. Couldn't get around him before the caution wave. The caution was for Chase Briscoe, in the 14 car going around backing it into the outside wall. So that caused pit stops to happen. It was the final pit stops, presumably, of the race. Denny Hamlin had the extra set of tires, but he was never going to be able to use it because he didn't want to lose that track position, so he was just going to pit with everybody else. I was kind of expecting that, even though during that red flag after the 15-car pileup, he stated that, yeah, we have an extra set of tires on these guys. That's going to be a huge advantage for us. It never came into play at all. Because even if they did get, more cautions, Hamlin was going to have to lose track position. There were still about 20 cars on the lead lap, and deep down, Hamlin and that 11 team were not going to want to lose that track position that they had running top 2 all day to run 20th, and especially with all those cautions piling on one after another. Last thing you want to do is go to the middle of the pack and put yourself at risk of being involved in the accident. The safest place is probably towards the front of the field. So they made the good call. They only pitted during that last stop with everybody else, and actually winning the race off of pit road was Martin Truex Jr. Denny Hamlin restarted second. Where did Blaney come out? Well, Blaney lost 3 spots on pit road. He would have restarted about 6th place, but then there was an issue with when they dropped the jack on the left side before Blaney took off out of the pit box, that one of the tire changers, I believe it was the front tire changer, had the hose was underneath the car, so when Blaney took off, the hose was wrapped around presumably the left front fender, right around the wheel well of the race car, and he drug equipment out of the box, causing a penalty. He had to restart, not just last on the lead lap, but he had to restart at the tail end of the longest line. So unless we got a bunch of cautions leading up into it, plus Blaney had a long run car anyway, that really took himself out of any sort of a shot at getting a good finish. And he did manage to get back up to 11th. He did pass Kyle Busch for 10th, and I think he used his tires up so much just trying to get through the field as quick as he possibly could that Busch was able to get back around him in the closing laps, and he still finished about 9 seconds off the lead. As mentioned, that left the restart on the front row between Denny Hamlin and Martin Truex Jr. Truex, who restarted and actually got to control the pace on the restart, had it for a moment, but again, Hamlin takes off so well on those short runs, and Truex could not hold him off. Hamlin was able to get around him, but he could never actually pull away. Truex was right there within about a half a second or so. For quite a long time, he was trying to find a way to maybe work a different line, get closer and closer to Hamlin, and we had a great short track battle there at the finish between Hamlin and Truex, and it was very clean too, as we've kind of seen Truex run in the past. I think back to 2018 at Martinsville, where he was racing Logano cleanly, and then he got around it finally on the last lap just to get booted out of the way in the last corner. With Denny Hamlin being a teammate, you were likely not going to see that, and I don't think even if he wasn't a teammate, Truex probably still would have raced him the same way he raced Hamlin and the same way he raced Logano in the past. But it ended up working out better for him this time, because not only he was able to get around Denny Hamlin, because then Hamlin was still trying to test the waters. You could tell he was driving it deep into the corner after Truex got around him with about 10 laps to go, and we were wondering if Hamlin was going to use the bumper, but he couldn't quite keep up with him. Chase Elliott, who ended up closing in on the top 2 after Truex and Hamlin were battling for the lead for so long. I mean, they were going back and forth there for a good 10 to 15 laps. Towards the closing end of this race, that Elliott was actually able to catch up to Hamlin. Hamlin might have used the tires up a little bit too much battling Truex, that Elliott was able to get by and finish second, dropping Hamlin back to third. Denny Hamlin in 8 races this season has 7 top 5 finishes, but still no wins to show for it. I think he has 3 stage wins still in the season, all in those first couple races of the year. But Denny Hamlin, he's still the regular season points leader exiting this race, and he is definitely the championship favorite. He just needs to get those wins so he can get more playoff points, especially considering the fact we have a lot of drivers with 1 win so far this year that have just as many playoff points as he does, if not, well, obviously more assuming Denny Hamlin wins the regular season championship, that'll be another 15. So Hamlin will kind of bump back up ahead of those guys, but not by much if he doesn't get, that many wins at least. But man, yeah, it was a bummer for me as a Blaney fan. I really thought that was going to be the day. I had high hopes going into the race. Again, he was my pick to win, and not biased at all. Again, if you would have watched the predictions video before that, I stated the facts of why I had Blaney as a must-have for a fantasy lineup, and he definitely proved well. He ran well, and that's also the first time I've picked Blaney to win a race this year, by the way. Even the race at Atlanta where he had a lot of success going in, I didn't even have him on my fantasy team that day for whatever reason, but yeah, so that's pretty much what went down during the race, and it was a congratulations moment there for Martin Truex Jr. pulling off his second win, broke the streak of different winners we had in the season. We had 7 different winners in the first 7 races going in. He's the first repeat winner, and now he's won 2 of the last 4 races, I guess it would technically be now. So yeah, again, congratulations to Martin Truex Jr. He's had one of the more stellar seasons, to say the least, and when we get into the power rankings, we'll see where he shapes up going into next week. But the race as a whole was a lot of fun to watch. Again, I was not able to actually watch from the comfort of my own home until about the final stage, the final just over 200 laps of the race. But even when I was glancing over or listening to the race on my way back from Cleveland, it was still a lot of fun. There was a lot going on, it seemed like. Obviously, it was a lot of fun for me with Blaney leading all those laps in the course of the race, but still, it definitely led to be an enjoyable race, even with my favorite driver, getting knocked out of contention there late with the pit road penalty. That wasn't his fault, of course. It's just kind of the bad luck we've come to know him with Blaney throughout his Cup Series career. Inside Uranus, welcome to the stream as well. Let's see what you guys thought about in the chat about the race. Both love Blaney. Blaney wins the championship this year. He's been doing good so far. That is definitely still a bold prediction. He is, I think, a contender right now, especially with the speed that team has shown in the last 5 weeks. But I would pump the brakes on that at least for a little bit. Honestly, if he would have went to victory lane yesterday, I would have put him as one of those top 4. But can't do that because he did not seal the deal. I guess I kind of spoiled a little bit. Do you think Blaney's going to win the championship? Right now, he's not my championship favorite, but he definitely looks like he's a for sure round of 8 candidate. Pick was Hamlin. He was close. Yeah, Hamlin was very close as well. Again, he had the fastest short run car, and by the time they went green, about 30 laps to go in the race, you would have thought that would have been enough of a short run for him to hang on in front of Truex. And I think he just wore his tires out too much on that last run battling Truex. And Truex was, putting a lot of pressure on Denny, making him use his equipment up, and Truex was able to get around. Didn't watch the race, but the highlights looked great. Yeah, it was a great race. I would probably put it... I'd probably put it at about an 8 to an 8.5 out of 10. It was one of the better races this season. I would say I enjoyed it more than Dirt Bristol, and Dirt Bristol was good. I'm trying to think what race could have been better than that this season. Homestead was really good. So was Vegas, but this had a better finish, which I feel like would honestly... I know a finish doesn't determine whether it was a great race or not overall, but the fact that this race had pretty much everything, had the long green flag runs in the first 2 stages, but still great racing. There were a lot of cautions, definitely way too many in the final stage. Again, there were 7 in the first 120 laps of the final stage. That was definitely where the race drug on the most, plus the red flag with that big 15-car pileup. And it took a lot of good cars out of it. You hate to see that happen, but that's nature of NASCAR. It's going to happen from time to time. And it's crazy, too, because you look at Dirt Bristol, there were a couple big accidents in that race, and then there were a couple big accidents in this race, too. That was the biggest one by far, but that's 2 short tracks, I guess, we've been on in back-to-back weeks, so you wonder what's going to happen going into Richmond next week for sure. See what else you guys said about it. Got 221 in fantasy. Yeah, that's pretty good. Pretty good. We'll take a look at the fantasy standings here in a little bit. We'll probably get on into that next now that we already talked about the race. Yeah, I don't want to go into the point standings too far until we get to the power rankings, and we'll talk about each driver's seasons to date here individually, and that will be in the top of the hour. Again, these podcasts are an hour, so we still got about a half hour to fill yet. I guess that's pretty good. We talked about the race. It seems like you guys in the chat enjoyed the race, I would assume. Let me know down below if you have, because I thought it was a pretty good race. Ethan Scott Bowman, so, well, you predicted. Oh, yeah, that's right. I do think I remember you stating, was it Friday night when I streamed, that you had Bowman winning the race? He looked good. I really felt bad for him and Keselowski, especially in that last wreck, because they were just innocent bystanders in it, and they got, or not the last wreck, but the 15-car pileup, and they were innocent bystanders. They both ended up with a poor finish, especially Bowman, because Bowman's right on that cutoff line right now, and he has had 3 top 10s this year, so the team's shown speed. We know Hendrick's shown speed. A couple weeks ago, I said Chase Elliott was the worst, and Elliott's been turning it on here. These last 2 races, he's definitely picked up the pace a little bit. And even, what other race he finished in the top 10 recently? He's finished in the top 10, I think, 4 races now this year. And he only had 2 top 10s before the last 2 races. So he's definitely turned it on, that's for sure. We got a lot of road courses still coming up on the schedule. We've only been to 1 so far this year. So you know Chase Elliott's going to get that win, you would have to imagine, at some point in time. And he keeps getting closer and closer. That's a second runner-up already this year. Hendrick camp this year, but we'll see if he made it into my top 10 of the power rankings this week. Next thing we have to do, we got to go into fantasy. So let me get the chat on right there. Okay, so I got the chat on my laptop. I will go to the fantasy on my phone. We'll go through the fantasy league standings, what everything looked like on my fantasy team here this week. Again, this is the NASCAR Fantasy Podcast. If you are not joined in the NASCAR Fantasy League for this channel, please do so. You can sign up on the NASCAR mobile app or website, NASCAR website that is. Go to Fantasy. You can sign up with your email. Search for KRC League. Hit join. If you win the regular season championship, you will get 2 tickets to any NASCAR race of your choosing in 2022. I will buy them. It'll technically be 3 tickets. It'll be me, you, and then, whether it's a friend or a family member you want to bring as well, I will buy. And any tickets of your choosing, excluding the Daytona 500, so it is definitely worth it. Will SHR ever get another top 10 or top 5? They will. I will talk about them a little bit again. Eric Almirola was also involved in that 15-car crash, and he was right around 10th to 15th the whole day. He still wasn't showing speed, but obviously that's going to put him in an even deeper hole. He's likely in a must-win situation. The good news is we have Talladega coming up, and that could be the momentum that 10-car needs. If he just runs well, stays out of the big one, if he stays out of the big one, he will run well at Talladega. I can guarantee it. If he can actually, put together a great race there, they could start to turn it on in the summer months. Remember, it was in the summer races last year, middle to late portion of the regular season when he clicked off 6 top 5s in a row. So that's very well possible that 10 team could do that again this year. I do think overall, Stewart-Haas Racing has more speed, it looks like, on the racetracks, the short tracks, and the road courses right now as a whole. I feel like they got more speed there than what they were showing on the 550 package. And we don't have a lot of 550 package races coming up. We still go to another short track next week, then Super Speedway. Then we go to Kansas, which is a 550 track, just for the next 3 races to be Darlington, Dover, and Coda after that. So there's only one 550 track in the next 6 races still. So I think better things are to come. I still think Kevin Harvick will win a race or 2 at least in the regular season. He hasn't been necessarily close to a win, but he's just consistently getting the top 10s. You'd have to imagine they're going to be ahead of the strategy game one of these weeks, and he's not going to give up that track position late in the race. So I do think Kevin Harvick is going to get a good run going for him as well. But definitely a good question on that one. Inside Uranus. All right, I got the fantasy team loaded up. So on my fantasy team this week, I had Martin Truex Jr., Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, Brad Keselowski, Kurt Busch, Joey Logano. I had Logano in my garage because at the end of Stage 2, Logano was battling a loose race car. I didn't think he was going to be able to overcome what Kurt Busch and Keselowski had on speed. Those two were in the back half of the top 10. Logano was as well, but I just didn't feel like Logano had the consistency. Plus, Keselowski had more stage points. Logano and Kurt Busch were very close on stage points. Logano only had 2 versus Kurt Busch had 1. But Logano's team turned it around in the final stage. They were able to get a top 10 finish. So I definitely bit the bullet there. If I would have put him in, which I likely would have put him in over Kurt Busch, I would have scored 16 more points than what I actually did. And that kept me just below the 200 mark on this week. But overall, it was a pretty good week. I mean, again, I had Blaney, won the first 2 stages. He performed well. He was one of the must-haves as well. Speaking of that, the must-haves this week were Martin Truex Jr., Ryan Blaney. They both performed very, very well. Brad Keselowski and Logano. Logano was in the top 10 all day, and Keselowski was in the top 10 for the first 2 stages until that wreck in the final stage took him out of it. So outside of Keselowski, my must-haves all performed very well this week. Again, you got to take my advice when I say that. As far as the sleeper picks go, I had Matt DiBenedetto and Kurt Busch. Kurt Busch was in the top 10. His top 12 streak will go down. He had 6 straight top 12s at Martinsville going into this weekend, so that's a tough break for him. And Matt DiBenedetto did not perform quite as well, and I think that's just the course this season. I think I'm giving up on DiBenedetto for this year as far as him making the playoffs. They're not going to point their way in like they did last year, and that team has been nowhere close to winning a race so far this season. I mean, they could shock on a super speedway. He's good on the road courses. Maybe they could shock there. I really expected DiBenedetto to have a better season, and it's just not going for him. Not going for him. He's really picking up where he left off last year. You figure he limped his way into the playoffs last year. He got eliminated in the first round, the round of 16, and he's picking up where he left off. They were just struggling at the end of last season. They're struggling out of the gates this year. And Matt DiBenedetto, you feel for him. You hope he can bounce back on his feet at the end of this season, and you wonder where he's going to go team-wise. Maybe he can take over the 10 if Almirola gets booted out, but I don't see DiBenedetto as an upgrade over Almirola either. I think Almirola's got more experience. He's more proven than DiBenedetto, so I don't know. I don't know where DiBenedetto goes at the end of this year. That'll be interesting to see how that unfolds. All right, let's see. PS5 reverse compatible. All NASCAR games will be on there. All NASCAR Heat games. PS5 is only for like PS4 games, so it's not like you're gonna be able to play PS2 games on PS5. It's not that far backwards compatible. Joey Logano fan, welcome to the stream as well. All right, so that was how my fantasy team did this week. Let's see how your guys' fantasy teams did this week. In the league, we'll go Martinsville first. Andrew Hollenbach and Inside Uranus tied for the lead. 240 points scored for this week, so congratulations to you guys. P-Chat Motorsports was only 5 points behind that with a close third-place finish. So the top 3 were all under a blanket, it looked like, for this week. I ended up 7th. Would have scored 16 more if I just would have made the right lineup switch there, and I would have been just behind P-Shat Motorsports and would have ended up 4th, so that definitely costed me, and that's been the case, I think, like 3 or 4 times this year where I've had a good team, but I play the wrong guy into the final stage and put him in my garage. So definitely tough there. We look at the overall standings in the league. P-Shat Motorsports still leads, but it's not by much. Only 59 points over, I believe, that's Tim Irvin. Super B-Man 1, Andrew Hollenbach, is only 5 points behind Tim Irvin. And then I'm sitting in 4th, about 27, it looks like, 37 behind Andrew Hollenbach. Doing the quick math there. Damn you, Andrew. Yeah, you guys tied for the lead. I don't know what the tiebreaker is there. If I were to give out a tiebreaker, I'd have to see who you guys have on the team. Maybe whoever predicted the right winner, I guess, would probably be the first tiebreaker. Let's see, results from this week in the league. And Andrew Hollenbach predicted Hamlin to win. And Inside Uranus, you predicted... Lost my place there. Nope, that's not it either. Oh, you also predicted Hamlin to win, so I guess you guys had the same. I don't know. There's no tiebreaker, I guess, for this, unfortunately. But man, taking 4th place next week. There we go. Hey, you can very well do that. You never know. You never know. Got a chance at the contest, that's for sure. Take a quick look at the top 10 results as well from this weekend. I didn't go over that. Again, Truex with the win, Chase Elliott 2nd, Denny Hamlin 3rd, William Byron with a great top 5 run in 4th, Kyle Larson 5th, Joey Logano 6th, Christopher Bell 7th, Tyler Reddick with a great quiet run in 8th, Christopher Bell 9th, and Kyle Busch rounds out the top 10. So congratulations for those guys on their great finishes. And now into the power rankings. I think this is the part of the episode I look forward to every week, and maybe the part of the episode on the podcast that you guys look forward to. We break down my top 10 in the power rankings. These are my championship favorites listed in order, my top 10 pretty much, and I base it off of statistics and eye test. Again, it's basically my specific power rankings, unbiased opinion on everything going here. Let me mute that. Let me mute that for a second. I was hearing myself in my ear there for a second. Talladaga's make or break. It is. You've been saying that for weeks, and it very well could be the make or break for the fantasy league. I think that's where you're really going to start to see where everything lines up. Where did Austin Dillon finish? Yeah, that's right. He had a problem late. He was definitely exceeding my expectations there for the longest time. I don't think he ended up with a good finish, though, if I'm thinking correctly here. Let me find it. What the heck? I go into race results on NASCAR. There it is. Austin Dillon ended up 14, so he had a good comeback considering where he was and having that pit road penalty. But, man, Quinn Houff finished top 25. He should be number 1 in the rankings. I didn't even realize that. I mean, that's not good, though. I mean, top 20, I'll give him more credit, but top 25, I don't know about that. Christopher Bell's 7th, Christopher Bell 9th. Are you talking about the power rankings? I don't know exactly what you were talking about there, Trevor. But yes, the power rankings. So I have last week's list pulled up. So we'll take a quick gander at that. Last week, again, this was 2 weeks ago, after Dirt Bristol, I had Denny Hamlin number 1, Logano 2, Larson 3, Truex 4, Blaney 5, Harvick 6, Keselowski 7th, William Byron 8th, 9th was McDowell, and I had Christopher Bell 10th of my power rankings from last week. And now we go into this week. Who do I have at number 10? Well, number 10, we're going to drop Michael McDowell down to the 10th spot. Let me get NASCAR pulled up on here, too. Give me one quick second. But Michael McDowell falls back to 10. He was 8th. I'm still going to keep him in the top 10 because he's got that win. He's still got the 3 top 10s. He's locked in. Unless he starts getting more top 10s here pretty soon, he will very, very quickly fall outside of the top 10, especially as we get these other drivers statistically getting better and better than Michael McDowell. McDowell is 16th in the point standing still, so he definitely dropped back quite a bit this week. He was 11th going in, he was 12th behind Austin Dillon going in, so he dropped 4 spots in points, but still in the top 16, and he's got the win, so he should stay in the top 30 in points. He'll be good to go. So Michael McDowell, still number 10. Ashton G, welcome to the stream, by the way. Bell 7th, Bell 9th. Instead of Harvick. Oh, I didn't even realize I said that. My bad. My bad on that one. Yeah, I didn't even realize I said that. I was wondering what you were talking about in the chat. All right, so yes, Michael McDowell still 10th, but he might be getting bounced out of the top 10 here in the power rankings. Yeah, Kevin Harvick is 6th in the power rankings. Bell's 10th. Unless I was talking about the race results, and I'm not going back to that right now. Hang on, I gotta get the results from yesterday pulled back up again. Martinsville results. There we go. Yeah, Michael McDowell did not have a good showing. He got caught up in that 15-car pileup, too, so I'm not going to put that against him. That wasn't his fault. 31st place finish for McDowell. Yeah, but he's still top 16. Unless he gets a top 10 next week, he's likely falling outside of the top 10 of the power rankings. Coming in at number 9, we've got Chase Elliott. Yes, Chase Elliott is in the top 10 in the power rankings for the first time. We started the power rankings after the 5th race of the year, I believe. No, after the 6th race. Yeah, it was after the 6th race of the season. So Chase Elliott, he's number 9 on the power rankings list. He was off the list last week, so he moves up into the list. It was a great run, second place finish. I stated if Chase Elliott was even competitive this week, ran top 5, he was easily going to move onto the list. So I stuck to my word there, moved him up to number 9. Good run for him. At number 8, it is going to be Christopher Bell. Bell had a top 10 run yesterday at Martinsville. Quiet day, but he did finish 7th. Got to move Christopher Bell up. Bell was 10th, last week in the power rankings, so Bell's going to move up to 8th. The only reason I have him ahead of Chase Elliott right now, again, is the win. Elliott does not have a win yet this year. And as far as top 10s go, Chase Elliott's got 4 top 10s, 3 top 5s, compared to Christopher Bell, who has the same amount of top 10s, 1 win, 1 top 5. Elliott's got 1 stage win. Bell has none. Elliott is higher in the standings. He's 7th. Bell is 10th. So it was very close. It was a toss-up. But simply the wind, I have to put that much higher in regards. That's the only reason Christopher Bell is ahead of Chase Elliott right now. Honestly, if Elliott gets another top 5 next week, expect Bell and Elliott to be swapped. If not, Elliott maybe moves up even higher than that. Coming in at number 7, we've got Kevin Harvick. Harvick was 6th on the list last week, so he keeps dropping back. He was 5th on the list the week before. Then he dropped to 6th last week. Now he's back to 7th. The only reason he's still as high as he is because he keeps getting top 10s. I mean, the man is defying the odds for Stewart-Haas Racing so far this year. He's got 6 top 10s in 8 races, solid 2 top 5s. Yes, he's not leading laps, but he's getting the good finishes, and he's still 8th in the points overall, which is only 1 spot and only 7 points total behind Chase Elliott. The reason why he's ahead of Elliott, he's got 2 more top 10s than him, so that was pretty easy there. As far as race finish, he's consistent, and he is ahead of Bell simply because he's got 2 more top 10s than Christopher Bell as well. Yes, Bell has a win, but Harvick has more top 10s, and I think that experience gives me more hope as well for Kevin Harvick versus Christopher Bell this season. Again, this is kind of like my championship contenders list. So far, we got Michael McDowell 10. Number 9 is Christopher Bell. Number 9 is Chase Elliott. Christopher Bell 8th. And then Kevin Harvick is 7th. Number 6 on the list is William Byron. Willie B comes in number 6. He was 8th on the power rankings list last week. He is up to 6th this week. Byron is on a tear this season. He's 6th in the overall point standings with 1 win, so he's locked into the playoffs. That's a solid there. He's got 2 top 5s, 6 top 10s, just as many top 10s and top 5s as Kevin Harvick, and that 1 win propels him ahead of Harvick in the power rankings compared to Elliott and Bell. He's got 2 more top 10s as well. Byron's also got a stage win just like Elliott. So Christopher Bell, and he's ahead of Elliott in the standings. So easily, again, Christopher Bell, in my opinion, he is the second best driver in the Cup, not in the Cup Series. He's the second best driver on Hendrick Motorsports right now. He really is. He's performing very well. In yesterday's race, he had a top 5, 4th place finish. He was in the top 5 pretty much all day. He was right around 4th to 6th the whole race. He had a quiet day, but it was a good one. And that was a track where he finished runner-up before at Martinsville, so he had success there. But still, yeah, great season so far for Willie B. He's 6th on the power rankings list. Coming in at number 5 is Joey Logano. Logano drops big time in the standings here this week. He was number 2 after Dirt Bristol. After he got that win, I hopped on the Logano bandwagon, said that he was a championship 4 contender, but he drops back to number 5 this week. The only reason he dropped back so far is because the guys I have ahead were just barely behind him, and they performed that much better at Martinsville than Logano did. Logano's still 3rd in the point standings. He did drop back 1 spot in the standings behind Truex. Logano's got 5 top 10s, which is 1 less than William Byron, but he's got 1 more top 5 and 1 more stage win than Willie B. They both have 1 win total on the season. So Joey Logano coming in at number 5, but again, he drops 3 spots in the power rankings this week. I think that's a good spot for him. I really do. I know it's off topic, but what Red Wings jersey am I? Oh, it's a Hendrik Zetterberg. He was my favorite player in the NHL when he was there. He retired a couple years ago. It was sad to see him go, but yeah, at least I got to see him play a couple times. But yes, it is a Hendrik Zetterberg jersey. Logano's 5 for me, too. All right, yeah. Hey, Trevor, I like that you have your own list here, by the way. I appreciate that. I want to see what you guys... What do you guys think so far? Numbers 5 through 10 on the power rankings. Again, we got McDowell 10, Chase Elliott 9, Christopher Bell 8, Kevin Harvick 7, William Byron 6, and Joey Logano 5th. The next 4 are my championship 4. These are the guys that, as of right now, 8 races into the season, are my championship 4 drivers. Based on the eye test, based off of recent success, they're hot streaks that they're riding on right now, because all of them are riding hot streaks, to be quite honest. At number 4, we've got Ryan Blaney. Blaney has 1 win on the season. His top 10 streak came to an end at 4 yesterday. Was very close. 11th place finish. He dominated the first 2 stages, winning both of them. So that gives him 3 stage wins on the season. He's tied for the second most stage wins now all of a sudden. Remember, he won a stage back at Phoenix earlier this year as well. And again, the 4 top 10s, 2 top 5s, 1 win. Statistically, William Byron, outside of the stage wins, he's got 2 more top 10s than Blaney. Blaney is 1 spot ahead of him in points, so he scored a little more stage points than Byron has. Harvick, he's also got 2 less top 10s than, but he is 3 spots, ahead of Harvick in the points. I think Blaney is good in 4. Blaney was 5 last week. I moved him ahead of Logano. Yes, Logano has won in the last 3 races, and so has Ryan Blaney, so they're both riding hot streaks, but Blaney had a lot faster of a car yesterday than Logano. Logano, he was struggling with the loose car until the final stage. Logano was able to finish 6th, and again, Blaney 11th. Blaney didn't win the first 2 stages yesterday. I would still have him outside the top 4. That's the only reason I moved him up 1 spot in the power rankings. He was 5th last week. And he's moving up. Before Blaney won at Atlanta, he was 8th on this list. He won at Atlanta, jumped to 6th. After Dirt Bristol, he jumped to 5th with that great comeback performance that day. And he almost got a top 10 again yesterday despite restarting at the rear of the field with 30 laps to go. Kyle Larson's 4 for you. Well, that gets into the next guy on the list. Kyle Larson comes in at number 3. So Larson's ahead of Blaney in points by just 1 spot right now. In total, only 8 points ahead of Blaney, so they're very close in points. Kyle Larson's got 2 more top 10s than Blaney and 2 more top 5s. That easily puts him ahead. And Kyle Larson had a better finish to yesterday's race as well. Larson ended up getting a top 5 run, finished 5th. So Kyle Larson, great run there for Kyle Larson yesterday. At his worst racetrack statistically, again, that is Martinsville is his worst racetrack. He exceeded my expectations. He was on the don't haves list for the week coming in, and he outran that beautifully. Kyle Larson, great run. He had a quiet day. Much like William Byron and most of the Hendrick cars, they had quiet days, but they were inside the top 10 all day. I think it's just because of how good of a day the 11, the 19, and the 12 had overshadowed all the Hendrick cars running 4th through 7th, basically the whole race till Bowman got in that accident. That was not his doing. But the other 3 still finished in the top 5. They finished second, 4th, and 5th. And Hendrick's got the speed. As a team overall, from top to bottom, they have the best team this year. As an organization. I'd say Penske is number 2, and I'd say Gibbs is number 3 right now. As a whole, organization-wise. That's a close second, though, by Penske. Top 2 on the list. Number 2, we have Martin Truex Jr. By the way, Kyle Larson was number 3 last week. He's number 3 again this week, so he didn't move up or down. Martin Truex Jr. moves up 2 spots in the power rankings. He was number 4 last week after Dirt Bristol. He moves up to number 2. Pretty easy. He got the win. We were going to have to move him up. And we stayed Larson stagnant, and he moves up ahead of Logano. So I think that's right. He's very close. He definitely has closed that gap. I thought Hamlin was like number 1 right here. And then second, Logano, Larson, Truex, and Blaney, all those guys I said were grouped like right here on him. And Truex has closed that gap like quite a bit. But he's still behind him. I know Hamlin's got 0 wins, and Truex has 2. But when we compare Denny Hamlin to Martin Truex Jr., Hamlin's my number 1, obviously. So Hamlin's got 7 top 5s in 8 races this season. Ridiculous success there. And 3 stage wins on the year, which is 2 more than Truex. Denny Hamlin leads the regular season standings by 76 points over Martin Truex Jr. right now. That's over a race and a quarter of points. Well over 1 race worth of points. Denny Hamlin's got that buffer right now. And you just wonder when Denny Hamlin's top 5, spell, his top 10 runs are going to come to an end. I don't think it's come to an end the next 2 races. He's super good on the super speedways. Expect him to run well at Talladega if he stays out of the big one. And he's a great short track racer. We go to another one at Richmond next week. Richmond's one of his best racetracks. I don't see Hamlin falling off of number 1 unless Truex gets another one. If Truex wins next week at Richmond, which he's very well capable of, I think we got to put Truex ahead of Denny Hamlin. But, yeah, that's a good, solid top 2 right there. Truex, that second win of the year, we had to bump him up. And he's at number 2 behind Hamlin. Because Hamlin, yes, he doesn't have a win, but he's leading the regular season standings, which would be 15 playoff points. Truex total right now, if you would count 9 plus a stage win, that'd be 10. Truex would technically have 2 more stage points than Denny Hamlin, but 7 top 5s. Truex has 3 top 5s. So Hamlin's got 4 more top 5s than him, and 2 more top 10s, and 2 more stage wins. And he's over a race worth of points ahead of him in the standings, and Truex is second in standings. So it's not like Truex is like 5th or 6th in standings. He's second. Hamlin's got over a 1 race lead. Got to put Denny Hamlin up there. Got to put Denny Hamlin number 1, and Truex is definitely number 2. Without unanimous this week. Unanimous. Those are the top 2. There's no debate whatsoever. There was no debate for Hamlin number 1, but I had Truex at 4 last week. Larson was barely ahead of him. You probably argue that I should have had Truex 3 over Larson, but the only reason I didn't was because Larson had, at the time, 2. Sorry. Yeah, at the time he would have had 1 more top 5 and 1 more top 10 than him, so. How many more races until we finally get to see either Hamlin, Harvick, or Elliott win a race? And if so, who gets the first? I think you got to say Hamlin's going to get the first. Hamlin's going to get the first one of those 3 right now. Elliott's got 2 runner-ups, but he hasn't had the consistency Denny Hamlin's had. And Harvick's had consistency, but his consistency is in the back half of the top 10. He hasn't really ran up towards the front looking like he's going to win a race. He just looks like he's going to get a top 5 or top 10. Hamlin's definitely been a lot more dominant. He's led a lot of laps. He led a lot of laps yesterday. He led the most despite not winning the stages. But he finished second in both stages, so he was definitely close. And he finished second by a nose and about a half a car in stage 2, so he almost won that stage. Yeah. Next stream is coming up tonight. NASCAR Heat 5 Career Mode at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll do a little doubleheader. My sister's game got postponed because it's been raining all day here where I live, so her game got moved to another day, so I will definitely get a career mode plus the custom scheduled cup season in tonight. So top of the hour, we'll start that stream. This stream ends in about 5 minutes, by the way. I know I'm late for the fantasy, but I can still join Gen 7 season. Oh, yeah, for sure. And you got a chance in the playoffs, too. Again, there's 2 shots to win the contest. You have a shot to win the contest at the end of the regular season and the playoffs. Because it resets in the playoffs, so that's why it's not one whole season. So you got the 26 race regular season, and the playoffs are going to be even closer points-wise because there's only 10 races, so might even have a better shot to win there, especially if you started off slow. But it's good to work it in now, so you get used to the whole fantasy game if you're new to it. So that way when the playoffs roll around, you kind of know what you're doing and you have another shot there. So it is possible the same person can win twice, or I can win the standings twice and nobody wins. So it's possible. Again, I'm giving up my own money, so you don't think I'm not. I'm going to compete for this. You guys are going to have to earn it. And so far, P-Chat Motorsports is earning it. Because he's at the top of the charts. Patrick Chatterley, for those of you that wondered. Can we have picks for Richmond? Not on this version of the podcast. My picks for Richmond are going to be... that's a Sunday race this week, so on Sunday. I thought it was weird that they're running Sunday afternoon instead of Saturday night. They did that a couple of years ago, too. I thought it was awkward. So, yeah, the Richmond race is a day race, so we will go back to our originally scheduled podcast time, or we'll do that a couple hours before the start of the Cup race on Sunday. Yeah, that's pretty much it. We only got 4 minutes of the stream left, ending in at 4:30. That'll be our hour mark. Could we see Austin Dillon win Richmond because he's found his way into the top 5 yesterday at Martinsville? Yeah, but he didn't finish there is the only downside. Austin Dillon did run well at Richmond last year. The thing is, though, I wouldn't take too much stock into what happened in the Richmond race last year because it was at night, and next week it's going to be in the daytime. It's going to be daylight the whole race. Because it's only 400. It's 400 laps there, so yeah, I wouldn't say he's going to win. I think he's got a good chance to run top 10 for sure. Pick BJ McLeod for Richmond. I highly recommend not picking BJ McLeod for Richmond, but yeah. Let me know down in the chat. You guys got any more questions? We got a few more minutes before we wrap this one up. Kind of got done a little bit early there, but no. Let me know if those power rankings are any good. The first 2 weeks I tried the power ranking, or I should say the first 3 weeks I tried it, I felt like it was a little more difficult. I felt like this week I had a better grasp of things, which is going to be more and more obvious the later and later we get through the season. It's going to be a lot easier, I think, for me to debate. It's just still so early in the year that, the rankings are changing so much every week. Guys that were outside the list, I guess I didn't really talk about that. Guys that were outside of my list this week that are close to moving in. McDowell, I mentioned, was close to moving out. Somebody that would move in ahead of him would probably be Kyle Busch. Busch wheeled himself to another top 10. Oh, I didn't even mention, Brad Keselowski wasn't even on the list this week. He dropped out. Keselowski, in the last 3 races, has finished 12th or worse, with 2 finishes outside the top 25 at Dirt Bristol not Dirt Bristol, at Atlanta and Martinsville. So I had to drop Keselowski out. Keselowski, he was 7th last week. He was 4th the week before that. Just think about that. 2 weeks ago, I had Keselowski in my championship 4, and now I don't even have him in the top 10. He's 9th in points now. 2 weeks ago, I think he was like 3rd or 4th, right there with Larson and Truex. He is definitely skidding out of control, and he doesn't have a win still. Everybody that's got a win is in the top 10 of my power rankings still. How about Ricky Stenhouse Jr. moving up quietly in the standings? He's only got 1 top 10, 1 top 5, so I'm not going to have him on the top 10. We got Talladega coming up. GTG Doherty Racing, they've had that hot streak. I predicted Stenhouse to win at Talladega before the season started in the preseason predictions. Look out for Stenhouse. He's 13th in points, guys. Austin Dillon's still 12th. He only moved back 1 spot. Chris Buescher's up to 14th. The guy's outside the cutoff line right now. Alex Bowman moved back after that DNF. Problem is Bowman, he's only 5 points behind Kurt Busch for the last spot in points. Lewis Hamilton to 23.11 will drive the 6th. Jeez. Oh, Wallace is 19th in points. Yeah, he hasn't gotten a top 10 yet, but he's not that far back. That just goes to show how many people have struggled started the season. Yeah, Bubba Wallace is 19th in points, but he's only 33 points behind Kurt Busch, and there's still a lot of races left. Ryan Newman, he's 23 back of the cutoff line. Ryan Preece has kind of gone back to his normal self. He's back to 20th in points. Benedetto's climbing up to 22nd. Chase Briscoe's still 27th, and Almirola's still 28th. Man. It's tough. It's tough. Just wanted to make sure you saw my comment before the stream ends. Oh, gotcha. I didn't even see that one. Would you see Bubba Wallace teammate 2311 as a second car next? I don't know about next year with it being the first year of the next gen car. I feel like, yes, 2311 wants to expand. I just think it depends how Bubba does this season, honestly. Because if he doesn't win, I feel like you have to establish yourself pretty good as a one-car team first if you're looking to be competitive. Same goes for Trackhouse. Those guys both make the playoffs this year. I think you can see it. If they miss the playoffs, I don't think Trackhouse is going to expand anyway, but next year, the only way I see 2311 expanding is if they start to run competitively, and right now they're not doing it. I know it's still early, and I've said that it was going to take them time to get there. But, yeah, the only time's going to tell for sure. If Bubba Wallace starts to turn it on in the summer months, I think they can expand that team next year, but they really got to focus on Wallace before they start thinking about expanding. You start expanding, you're going to start, putting even more pressure on Bubba before he's actually, gotten to those expectations, and that's the last thing you want to do to a driver. All right. Well, yeah, that's going to wrap up the stream, guys. Like, share, and subscribe for more daily NASCAR content. Hopefully you enjoyed the podcast. I know it's a lot earlier than what we usually do. Usually it's Mondays at 5, but my sister originally had a game scheduled for today, and I didn't know until literally maybe 2 hours before the stream started that her game was going to be postponed. If I would have known last night the game was going to be postponed, we would have had it at 5 o'clock like normal today. But we'll be back to our normal times next Sunday for our pre-race fantasy podcast edition. For Richmond, as far as the live streams tonight, we'll have NASCAR Heat 5 Career Mode at Bristol, and that will be at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then later on tonight, we'll have a full race live stream for the Cup Series on the custom schedule mode. So, again, like, share, and subscribe. Realistic broadcast coming up at the top of the hour. Thanks for everybody tuning in here today. And I'll catch you guys a little bit later. Again, I greatly appreciate it. Thanks for watching. Road to 1,000 subs. So, again, like, share, and subscribe if you know anybody who watches NASCAR. This is the place to be.